Good evening, everyone. This is Marty Oakley of the PPJ Gazette Online, and this is TS Radio Network. Oh, we've got a banging good show for you tonight, and we've got a gentleman coming on here named David Joseph that I have been following for a while. I've found him through Brian Kinter, who is also on with us. This man has run this thing with this court system, or what they're calling a court system, down to the wire on how they're stealing our children. The methods they're using, I kept asking, looking, researching for what was enabling them to do this. And as I kept pointing out to all of you, these are not courts of law. These people sitting on the bench are not judges, not in the legal sense. These are hired hacks sitting up there. David is going to explain all this to us, and we may have some technical difficulties tonight, so I want to get rolling here and get David and Brian both on. Both of you, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, you bet. Brian, you there? We got you up?
I am, Marty. I am. It's always a pleasure to be in such company of such brilliant minds. I really consider it an honor and a privilege.
Well, I'm glad you're here because you're going to have to help me with this one. This man knows more than I do, and I didn't think anybody did.
Yeah, he's a fireball. I'll tell you what, he's learned through the trials of life. You know,
yes.
It's amazing when your children's lives are at stake just how far you're willing to go to undermine the level of depravity in which they operate. Yep.
Yes. I want to do something on one of my shows, Whistleblowers, on the USDA shows. And we've done many shows with Lawrence Lucas about the black farmers and about the millions of acres of land that have been stolen from them. And I have a gentleman, and I use that term loosely, named Tubby, who likes to email me during that show. He's from Texas, and Tubby likes to dog on me because the people I'm talking to are black, and I totally support them. And everything that they do, they're legitimate, and they are under fire. And he's always shooting me these racist emails. And Tubby and I have a special relationship. I like to read his emails on air, and then the one I just received, I see again. Why don't you stick to your own race? Well, Tubby, sweetheart, my race is the human race. I don't know what the hell you are. And so I'm for anybody. So as I have told you publicly on the shows, the whistleblower shows and the USDA shows with Lawrence and Ron Cotton and Corey Leah and all of those guys that are fighting so hard, you can kiss my fluffy white butt. So why don't you sit back, Tubby, pop your Budweiser, rub your big fat gut, and listen up. You might learn something. Anyway, that having been said, we are talking tonight about the theft of our children. And as most of you know, a lot of what I concentrate on is guardianship abuse and how they use these probate tribunals. These are not courts of law. They do not qualify under Article 1, 3, or 4. And I was listening to David's video today, and here this man is explaining what these actually are. And they are contract courts. And I want him to explain that. But David, before we get rolling, and of course everybody knows Brian, because me and Brian have been doing stuff like this forever. But David, give everybody a little bit of background on yourself, if you would, and how you got involved in this.
Background, so first of all, my name is David Jose. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I ended up moving out to Arizona where I met my wife, and we had a situation where my daughter through marriage, who was on her fourth CPS allegation between multiple people even before I came into the picture, she was dealing with some little gangster boys. We decided we were going to put her in homeschool, and she made allegations and then backdated the allegations 2 weeks. 4 years or 3 years before that, we took a cell phone from her. She backdated allegations 2 months. The first time she got caught, the sergeant or the detective, the detective who was dealing with the accusations could see clearly that she was lying and making up stuff because she was mad that day. this last situation pretty much was the same. It just happened to be after the time that Arizona got gung-ho about stealing people's little ones. And so after I saw that they had an intention on taking my little ones, I started doing a lot of study, and I found out that Arizona was known for supervisors making up stories, traveling across state lines in order to take people's little ones, breaking all types of laws, never using a warrant. And so I decided to prepare myself by recording everything from the first day.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if they were going to come, but what I did was something told me one night, which I believe was God, to go and get my little one seen by a doctor. So we had a doctor who's a major in the military in the church. I got him to check out the little ones, and we did the checkup on video. And we had the preacher actually witness. And so we documented everything. He notarized a letter telling his findings, which nothing was wrong, and he's never seen them with any signs of neglect or abuse ever. And guess what it was that the actual OCWI worker decided not to turn in.
Oh, imagine that.
Yep.
Oh, good God. There is such a similarity, David, between how this child napping and what we call granny napping is conducted. The lack of hearings, the no warrant. We're from this agency. We said so. That's all there is to it. I don't need proof. I work for the government. And you pointed out in that video today about these courts and about them being courts of contract. Will you please explain that? Because I've been trying. I couldn't have put it any better than what you did.
Okay.
I hate the thought of that you outdid me on that. But I'm kidding.
Well,
but what I'm saying is you explained it in understandable terms. Tell people what you mean by this.
Okay, so one thing that I did not mention is that I do a whole lot of business. So I've done real estate since 2001, and I do another business that deal with medical products. But in business, the more that you do, the more liability that you have. And so
yes.
the more that your name gets big, the more that you have a likelihood of being sued. And so many times, just to protect our livelihoods, we do what's called create trust or private membership organizations or associations so that we reduce liability. Well, when I saw the documents from the so-called juvenile court, I realized that their documents were private membership association or organization publication, meaning you had like a church meeting or a business meeting, and they have a process of telling what the bylaws are, meaning what they're going to change. So when we're getting these minute orders, which they're calling minute orders, but it's really minute orders, from this supposed court, really what they're giving us is an unsigned, notice that the judges don't sign it most of the time, an unsigned document full of trickery to make you believe that you're in a court. So for instance, if you were in an actual court, the orders would actually say order or orders. It would not say minute or what people call minute order. Once you add the word minute to it, you change what it is that you're giving out. Now, the thing is that everything in this private business meeting is done to trick parents or children of the elderly to believe that you're actually in a court, and you're not.
Right.
And so
right.
If you look at the 1946 Administrative Procedures Act, you'll see that the government, the actual government, had to get on administrative agencies, which are businesses, and had to tell them that they had to be more careful in what they do in trial-like hearings. Not trial-like hearings. And the reason they said they had to have that is because the public was easily tricked by the fact that the trial-like procedures look like actual trials.
Yes, and go ahead.
So it actually says that in the Administrative Procedures Act of 1946. And so what's happening is that agencies, which are businesses or trusts, which are up under the executive branch, not in the executive branch, up under the executive branch.
Yes.
If people don't believe it, look at Title 42, USC, and I think when you get around 674 or 678, where it talks about the payments to the states, you will see where there has to be a single unit or a single and separate unit, if it's dealing with child support, that actually is running the programs, not laws. Now notice, when you look at Title 4E and Title 4D, you're going to keep seeing the word program, provision, but it doesn't say law.
Right.
And when you look up Title 42, you're going to find out, if you look up Title 42 on positive law, you're going to find out that Title 42 has never been passed into positive law.
It can't be. It cannot be codified into public law. No, it cannot. You are absolutely right.
So if something is not positive law, why is it being applied to the people?
Can I explain that?
Go ahead.
Okay. You hit the nail on the head. These are executive agencies. Okay, and they're under the executive branch. When we have gone to the legislature or the Congress, or we have gone to the governor, they all bat us back and forth, and that's judicial, we can't get in. Oh no, that's legislative, we got separation of powers, we can't get in. And they're both lying and telling you the truth at the same time. These are executive agencies. They are under the direction of the executive of the state, your governor or the president. And these people are contract players. These are corporations. So your state is running CPS, APS, all of these other USDA programs, FDA programs, CDC programs, all under contract. And what they do is the federal corporation contracts with the same or like state corporation, and then they run everything they want to do up underneath it. First comes the memorandum of understanding of what each party, the state and the federal, are wanting, and then what they'll agree to. Then comes the formal contracting, and they agree to that. Then the umbrella agency, which all of this operates under, is set up. And then what happens is the funding, because they can't foist anything on the states that will cause an economic hardship. That's the lie. They have to pay them for access. We call it bribery. They call it funding. And then they come out with what they openly call their business plan. This is exactly what it is. We have been incorporated, corporatized, and we are being sold as commodities under these umbrella agencies. And that's what you're talking about here. Every state has an umbrella agency that is tied to the executive office, under the control of the executive office. It's neither judicial nor legislative. It's that top guy who's running the show, who's letting all of this happen, that approves the contract.
Here's what's deep, too. So in court actions, you have two different reasons that you can bring somebody, or you can bring an issue against somebody. So one is going to be called ex delicito, which means someone did something wrong. And then the other one is going to be ex contractu, meaning as a result of a contract. So when any time that there's a situation where it is the result of a contract, it automatically gets rid of the juris of a judge. So the judge doesn't have the ability to have jurisdiction when he is working with an agency that they all have the same contract. What ends up happening is he becomes a clerk for the agency. So he's a ministerial clerk. And anytime you have a ministerial clerk, that is working in a case, the ministerial clerk cannot write orders.
Right.
So when they realize they have no power to write orders, that's why they come out with this minute order, which is a trick to make you believe it's a court order. And many times you'll find that they don't sign it. The problem is that the police officers don't usually know that this is not an actual order. So they trick the police officers to put their lives on the line to go take a kid from someone or an adult from someone when they never had the right to do so.
Thank you. I have talked about the fact that these people are not judges. They are exactly, as you said, ministerial clerks or hearing examiners, but they are employed by, paid by, tied to the same agencies that have brought you into this setting. And they are not going to render any decision that is going to benefit you. It is going to benefit the agency because under their job description, they are required to do exactly that. And
well, here's what's funny. Their hands are tied. They can't make a decision for you because they don't have jurisdiction over the issues at hand. So if someone says that you injured your adult family member or you injured your child, a court of competent jurisdiction is to make it what's called a judicial determination to see if that person should be removed. What the problem is, in the court of competent jurisdiction, if you look at the federal codes, is going to tell you that the court of competent jurisdiction is the one that can do a pen register or write a warrant. The problem is that that's a court of general jurisdiction that's criminal. So they're supposed to take you into a criminal court and actually make charges against you and prove that you've done something wrong. But because they've turned it into such a big business, what they're doing is skipping the whole part of trying to prove that somebody did anything wrong, having a hearing without you there, serving the wrong parties, sending mail to the wrong address, and then come in and say, hey, we're supposed to take this parent or we're supposed to take your child, which is wrong. It's wrong. But the problem is that the people don't know what this is. So because these people come and they say what the law is, which they're just talking about statutes and codes or policy that has nothing to do with law, because people have a respect for the law, as we see in the Supreme Court case U.S. versus Minker, you find out that the people are being deceived and having things stolen from them, their property and their family, because they believe that what they're hearing is law when it's not.
Exactly. Thank you. You hit on so many things there. I lack the words that you do, the understanding to put it out there as eloquently as you do and explain this. One of the things that I have cited, like in the guardianship cases, David, is that there is no wrongdoing. There are no charges brought of wrongdoing or of any crime being committed. There is no, this person has committed no crime. How did you end up here in guardianship? It's theft of identity is all important, and then the illegal conversion of property to the predators. But this is, I hope everybody's taking notes. I am as he's speaking, and I'm going to go back and listen to this and make some more. This thing about you saying this, and if you would go over this again, please, David, briefly, about this unsigned opinion, decree, order, whatever it's supposed to be, having no validity.
Yeah, what they'll do is they'll put out orders with no name on it, or what you find sometimes is that the Attorney General's office is making the order for CPS or APS.
Yes.
So there's no judge making an order. It's literally men and women hiding behind their private businesses, their agencies, or their attorneys for their agencies, which being paid by the same money, that are ordering the taking of your little ones, with no judicial determination that any wrong was done. And so this is what the king used to do back in the day if the king wanted your wife. The king would say, "Hey, I want that wife. Make a law that I can take his wife."
Oh, wow.
You bypass any type of lawful court for somebody doing something wrong, and you just say, "Hey, it's my prerogative that I want this."
Oh, my God. Brian, you're being awful quiet.
There's something. There's something good with this too. So,
here's where I'm at.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, David. No, you go ahead.
I was going to say that at the same time that they have these courts not courts, these private tribunals, which a tribunal could be a good thing if you understand your position. See, in the United States, we've been tricked. We believe that the man wearing the black robe is the judge, and we believe that he makes all the decisions and we can't do anything. We've been deceived through our education. People have gotten rid of civics in school, so we don't know our own rights, our God-given rights. We don't know how to deal with certain issues, so we're getting beat up because we're ignorant. But that was made by design. If you look at I believe it's 1935. I think it's Health and Welfare Act. I think that's what it's called. Forgive me, my mind is a little bit shaky. My sugar's low. But Health and Welfare in 1935. You're going to see where every baby that was born, they created an account with $1.8 million on the first year in that account, and then every year after they add another $1 million to that account. So every time that they take you into court, they're actually going after that account. So where we see that every child is worth $83,000 to $140,000 a year, we don't even know that they're behind the scenes stealing money from those accounts that were created for every single American just in case something happened wrong.
Okay. And this is the 1935 Health and Welfare Act.
Health and Welfare, yep. And here's what's neat. There was a judge, an administrative law judge in recent history, and he got caught in $550 million in Social Security fraud.
Oh, God.
$550 million. And that can't even touch the cases that we're dealing here with adults and children.
Right.
Not by far. But the thing is that, remember when I told you about business and how they try to hide anything that you own with private membership associations or organizations or trusts? Well, these people who are doing this evil, when you see how West Virginia just got impeached all of their judges, and they found these secret accounts. I went to Washington, D.C. the other day and had some really good things happen, met some powerful people, and accepted a position that will blow a lot of this stuff up if God lets me live. But the woman who I met, her dad helped take down these Supreme Court judges, and they found all of these secret accounts. There was another man who, I believe he was a sheriff or some type of officer who did some research in the Midwest, and he came on the news and he said, "Oh my gosh, there's so much money being sent here in 30 different accounts in the middle of the night." Well, there is an entity called the National Association of Juvenile and Family Court, the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges. And that membership organization had 30,000 members in that organization as of recent history. They have 30,000 members. And the members are judges, guardian ad litem, attorneys, all types of people, So it's super
Those are the people, David, those are the stakeholders that they refer to but never mention.
But they don't tell us. You're right. They don't tell us who these people are and what these people are doing until it is very, 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 very wrong, But these people actually have a membership organization, which means that they're all connected, running these so-called abuse and neglect courts in these cases, but they're not really courts.
Right.
And nobody's telling them.
Right. I'm always amazed at people when you try to explain this to them, that you are not in a court of law. We hear all the time the complaints about, and the statutes in every state, David Reed, that due process must be followed. It never is. You're supposed to be served notice of hearing. You seldom are. They have ex parte meetings where the case is decided without you even being there, and then this decision is handed to you, and your life is effectively ended. This is one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on, was to explain how this system is set up, because we have seen it expanded now, where they're culling the population. I have a very popular show on the station. My host is out right now with Family Business, Carly Walden, who's doing hospice survivors and victims, where they are literally killing off the elderly, euthanizing them under bogus conditions. All right. They are doing medical kidnap now and taking children and ending their lives, doing experiments on them because you asked for a second opinion or you wanted to take them somewhere else. My point to all of this is, this has expanded out. There is no sector of the population which has not been commodified. Some of us have been determined to be of value for sale, as in children, to be profited off of. The elderly to be profited off of, but eventually euthanized to get rid of them. It is a culling. It is this thing. What everything you talk about highlights to me is all this mess we have been hearing for years about how gay people are destroying the nuclear family, the traditional family, and the Muslims are destroying and the so on. It's our government who is tearing our families apart, and you are explaining how they are doing it. It isn't somebody over there that you need to worry about on the other side of the globe who doesn't even know you exist. It's the people in government that have set this system up. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew exactly the fact that people would be confused, and then they made sure our children were not educated in any of this. So you're exactly right. And this thing with the law, using all these Latin terms and all of this twisted, contorted, tortured language. Anytime you see anything like this, somebody's trying to get something over on you. Figure out what it is. Because a normal person does not speak like this. But,
well, you know, Marty,
okay.
Marty, if I could jump in here for just a second. You know, when you say,
only a second, Brian. Then,
okay, only a second. How are you? I love you. Hey, listen, I really believe, though, that when we talk about the government and the abuse in which they afflict, I believe predominantly, and I think David would concur, I think that you would as well, is that predominantly that infractions on our rights is done by the judicial system itself. They are the greater oppressor of the American people, simply due to the fact of the lack of accountability of our judiciary. And I say, until that a judge is willing to step to the same yardstick in which he places each one of us, whereas when you go into court, he makes a demand that you give an answer, but yet when it comes to a judge, the judge can simply say, no, I'm not going to answer. And that's what I found repugnant when I started my journey.
Yes. Well, go ahead, David.
What I find, so it is people, so we got to look at this and really break it down as it is, because there's two different things that are happening. So we have people who are considered government workers or judges, right? So let's say at 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock, a man who is called a judge is hearing a case where someone did something wrong, and they're trying this person to see if they committed a crime. So it's about wrong or right. So at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, they're hearing a case that has to do with wrong or right. So they're acting in a judicial capacity. They're getting paid by the people for that work in the judicial capacity. But at the same time, at 11 o'clock, they hear a family case. And in that juvenile case that they're hearing, they're actually being paid from Title 4E funds along with everybody else in the case. And so what ends up happening is that they're not working in their official capacity, they're working in a private business capacity. And so, a private capacity where they're doing private business. So what we're seeing here is it's kind of like someone working for Walmart during the day, and then right after work, they go work for another company that's a competitor to Walmart, and they're getting paid by the competitor. During the day, at 8 o'clock, they're working in a case for the people. At 11 o'clock, when they're working in that private capacity, they're making money on the side as a side business. It is private. And so they're not even acting as government officials. But what they're doing is they're tricking us. So when we try to sue them and take them to court, they'll say, oh, well, they have immunity. They're foreign to us. If you look at the Hardwick versus Presley case, or the famous Hardwick case, where the judge told the attorney for CPS that they're not allowed to lie in court, you'll see the attorney tell the judge, when the judge says, oh, well, there doesn't have to be any statutes or codes that tell you it's wrong. The attorney is saying, look, there's statutes and codes and stuff, but that don't apply to us. That doesn't apply. So she's admitting it doesn't apply. The reason it doesn't apply is because anytime a private entity is a trust, a private membership organization, or something of that nature, the federal government, the state government, or the police do not have the ability to penetrate that trust they don't have the ability to penetrate the trust because they don't have jurisdiction over it. They can't get in the middle of contracts. And so what they're doing is, in one hand, they'll say that they have judicial immunity, and at the same time, let them work up under contract and say they don't have jurisdiction to stop them because they know that they're a private business.
And this, David, is proven out in SCOTUS's probate exception doctrine. And probate, in this sense, covers everything we're talking about: the elderly, wills and trusts. We're talking about family court, child support, divorce court. All of that is considered part of probate. They will not hear anything to do with probate, because anything that is in motion in the state, according to the Supreme Court, in rem, meaning in motion, is the property and control of the state. Therefore, they can't get in it. So you're exactly right. It is a foreign entity.
Child custody cases were also added into in rem proceedings, and so it's sad because they're telling you that your parent and your little ones are things that belong to them.
Yes.
But they don't come out in front of the people and say, hey, we own you. And then they never gave you a contract that gave you full disclosure that said, hey, when you sign this birth certificate, hey, when you get this marriage license, hey, when you get a driver's license, we're going to make you property of the state.
Yeah.
They don't say that. So it's fraud all around. But the sad thing is that we're in a time where the people know that something is wrong, and people are raising up quickly. They're frustrated. They're getting upset. But they know that something is not right.
The one thing I found out with my girls that just graduated high school in the last 2 years is, you talked about they're not being taught in school, in civics. They were taught nothing. All of this time wasted, David, taking mythology. All of this time taken redoing redundant English classes, redundant math classes. Not that you don't need math, but the math they were taking, unless they were on the advanced level, was absolutely like on a fifth or sixth grade level. Being forced to take physical education and concentrating on sports, instead of learning about the Constitution, about the Bill of Rights, about the law, what your rights are, what these legal terms mean, what the repercussions can be in a legal sense to things that happen. The difference in these, they're taught none of that. And they come out after 12 years at great expense, and they can't even make change for $1. And we have many adults now that are just as ignorant, and I use that word not as a negative, but it is an intentional result of failing to educate the population on how the country is constructed, what the Constitution is, was, and was meant to be, how it should be used, and how through, just as you said, the trickery of words, I call it weasel word swamping, you get conned into believing you're one place when in fact you are somewhere else. That over here you have rights, but over here, unbeknownst to you, you have none. And, this is, okay, go ahead.
Well, no, you're 100% right. You know, it's a big con job, and the thing is that, you know, when you talk about these different laws written in Latin, well, one thing, if you just look up civil law, right? Civil law came from Rome, and when you look at Rome, you know, you look in the Bible, Jesus says, you know, forgive those who trespass, or forgive your debtors as pretty much God forgives us for what we do. If you look at Jesus, he'll say, forgive your brother who did you wrong 70 times 7. So you'll see where we have a system where it's about forgiveness and mercy and not trying to make more and more laws. As a matter of fact, Jesus broke down the laws to two things. Now, when you look at evil and you look at man, the law of man that wants to destroy you or oppress you, they come out with more and more codes that you cannot understand, and in language you cannot understand, in order to confuse you and prevent you from knowing the law. And then if you look at what Jesus said in Luke, I think it was chapter 11, maybe 52, it says, woe unto the lawyers, and it tells how the lawyers hide the key of knowledge. And so when you look at the Black's Law Dictionary, their legal Bible, you'll find that some of them have keys on there mocking what Jesus said.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so this is how they're attacking us, because they have purposely pulled this stuff out of our education. They have purposely lied to us when it comes to what it is that we're dealing with, or they ignore us. But the whole thing is that the Congress or the state legislature, whenever any of these private entities are created, they're the ones who do it. And they create these private entities on purpose because they know that it goes around the Constitution and it keeps them away from liability. But the problem is that when you know about these private entities, which I know very well, there's one way to penetrate these entities. The way that you penetrate these entities is when they do nefarious acts. And so we have this National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges. We need to all come together and start making affidavits against them for allowing their members to rob the people, to do these nefarious acts against the people. They're kidnapping, they're child trafficking, they're doing all types of things. And we've been aiming at the wrong people. We try to go to a court and the judge is like, no, I'm not hearing this. Get out of here. I can't mess with this. And then you try to go to the legislature and say, well, we have no jurisdiction. That's judicial. And it's not judicial. It has nothing to do with the judiciary, because the people who are normally the judiciary are working in a private capacity doing these things.
Right.
So we have to know who we're fighting.
When you talk about how this stuff, the legalese, and how this stuff is written so that you can't understand it, I have always used as an example, David, the Supreme Court opinions, and there's a difference between an opinion and a ruling, but I always use the one that Roberts issued on the Affordable Care Act that we know as Obamacare, claiming that it was constitutional because the government has the right to tax. The government has the right to tax only corporations. They have no right to tax our labor. That's another story on another day. But I read the opinion on this. Roberts wrote it. You couldn't make heads or tails of what this damn thing said. And he was even questioned because of how convoluted this thing was and twisted up, of what did this actually say, and even he could not explain what he wrote said. And this is exactly what you're saying. They screw everything up with all these meaningless words, stuff that makes no sense, They twist it around. It sounds like they said it's cold when actually it's hot. I mean, I use that as a euphemism, but you're absolutely right. It's all a system of smoke and mirrors and trickery, and if you don't know the tricks, and if you don't know what's behind the mirror, there's no way you can win. And they can change it at any time. They can change it at will.
That's the thing about the private membership association, and you just hit a great point. So the private membership association has its own constitution. So it doesn't go by the Constitution of the United States. So while we're thinking, hey, this is going to be like Judge Judy, we're going to go in here, we're going to tell our truth, and we're going to be good. It doesn't even go by that. It has its own bylaw, which they write as they go. Because it's not a court, they can change everything. They can take your little one, put your little one with the abuser, put the adult you're dealing with somebody who's going to hurt them, because it's all by contract. And what they're going to do is they're going to write their reports and their notes to say, hey, we did everything right. This person was crazy. They were dangerous. And we're just trying to protect people. And the problem is that not enough people come out at once to show, no, ain't no way in the world that all these people have done wrong. Why haven't you charged these people and sent them to jail? What the heck is going on here?
Yes, exactly. I want to point something out here. You talk about this National Council of Family Court Judges, okay? There is also, on the guardianship side, the College of Probate Judges and the National Guardianship Association. And this is exactly what you're talking about, the creation of these entities that are actually conducting business and have nothing to do with the law, and they protect themselves with self-policing. The Bar Association, which sets up its own oversight board of overseers, which, of course, they're not going to find any of their members guilty because that might stop the money train and expose all of them to wrongdoing. And so you have this self-protecting racketeering going on, and what they're making money off of is us, the buying and selling of the population. They have destroyed the rest of this country. We produce nothing of value to speak of. Our manufacturing sector is virtually gone, outsourced. We have got 20 to 30 million people in here running around that we don't know who they are, where they came from. And all they look like to these people, to these organizations, these associations, and these membership clubs is money. How can we compartmentalize these people and begin buying, selling, and trading them and using them to make money? We have even turned being put in prison into a very lucrative business. We are commodities, and that's how they see us. We are the most valuable product this country has, that it ever will have, is its people. And they have nothing left to buy, sell, and trade but us. And they're doing a damn fine job of it.
Yeah, well, if you look, this thing is so deep because Rome is the one who created this statue idea to build so many statues that you just destroy the people by hitting them with so many statues that you can take everything they have. Well, if you look in the book of Revelation, chapter 18, you're going to see where it talks about this group of people who are big into commodities or commerce, and it talks about their cinnamon and oodles and ironwood and how they sell the souls of men and slaves. And it's deep because these people have claimed our souls, and they're creating slaves by illegitimate contracts.